Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation. We are live in Studio B, and we welcome in now the senior editor and publisher of WildcatAuthority.com. His name is Jason Scheer. Obviously, he is an expert in Arizona Wildcat athletics, and he's back on BYUSN. Jason, how are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
It feels like things are changing every day. We discussed the report from Dennis Dodd earlier in the show about potential separation as that gap widens between the Power 4 schools and the Group of 5 schools. But we'll get to that in a moment. I just want to initially start with the 16-team Big 12, Jason. And do you think it's going to get bigger with everything you're hearing in your circles that maybe Brett Yormark has his visions on something bigger than a 16-team conference?
Yeah, I think it's going to get bigger. I want to be clear, nothing's imminent. This isn't something that we're going to hear about next week or probably even next month. It's going to be a little bit, but, I think Yormark hinted at it at Big 12 Media Days when he said we're open for business, and he's absolutely open for business. They want to make sure that the Big 12 is as strong as possible. And if that means adding a few more new schools, and that's what he's going to try to do.
So when you say a few more schools, obviously the schools that have been prominently discussed in the reports and rumors and all of that stuff is Clemson and Florida State. Do you think it stops there, or does it get bigger than even just those two schools if it happens?
No, I don't think it stops there. I think you're probably 4 is the goal. In an ideal world for Yormark, it's Florida State, Clemson, Miami, and Louisville. I think NC State and Virginia Tech are right there also. It could be all of them. It could be 2 of them. But that top 4 group is the priority for Yormark. And, I don't see it going beyond 6 unless we head towards the 2 power conference, situations where each one has like 40 teams. But, it's definitely, from what I understand, it's Florida State and Clemson, and then you would take a look at possibly adding a few more other schools.
Jason Scheer is on BYU Sports Nation, publisher, senior editor of WildcatAuthority.com. Let's talk about Arizona athletics, who are making the transition from the now disbanded Pac-12 into the expanded Big 12. Now, of the 4 corner schools, Jason, notably Utah and Arizona State were not as excited about Colorado and Arizona, and this is very public, about making the jump. So does Arizona view this as a lateral move, or with basketball in play and everything that's happened, do they feel like this was a jump up?
Yeah, it's not a lateral move. There's always going to be the people that grew up on the Pac-12 and are very upset about the move and don't like change, and that's understandable. But when you take a look at the Big 12, I think there's a few opinions that Arizona fans have. Number one, there's a lot of parity in this conference. There were years in the Pac-12 with Washington, Oregon, USC when they were really good, where you'd start the season and Arizona would just have no chance. And that's changed. Credit to the previous coaching staff and the current one as well, as that attitude has changed. And then you look at basketball and Arizona. We know about Arizona's basketball history. Well, now it's in the best conference in America, and the basketball excitement is off the charts. I mean, people are absolutely pumped for the Big 12 basketball season and playing teams like Kansas, Houston, all that. It's just there's a lot of excitement surrounding the Big 12 right now.
As far as the football is concerned, Arizona picked 5th in the preseason media poll. And I know I had a chance to talk with, Fafita and a lot of the players that were there at Big 12 Media Day, and super impressed, by the way, with all of the Wildcats that I was able to speak with. And, they not surprisingly, all said, it's not where people pick us. We don't worry about that. But I'll ask you, what did you make of being picked 5th, and the fan base of the Wildcats? How did they view being picked 5th in the Big 12?
There's a lot of parity in the conference, but I think, and myself included, I thought Arizona's too low. And I think they're being punished a little bit in the preseason for losing their head coach, which I get, a lot of coaching changes and all that. And they lost some players, but I think they replaced them pretty well also. And they added some guys that'll play pretty vital roles on this team that I like quite a bit. So, 5th to me feels a little low. I think they'll finish in the top 3, but at the same time, I get it. New team in the Big 12. There's a lot of parity. It's not the type of situation where I'm up in arms freaking out because they finished 5th or they were picked to finish 5th.
Jed Fish made some big-time news for sure. He did great things for Arizona. And to your point, he leaves, and then I think there's just this natural kind of acceptance by most average college football fans like, well, Arizona's going to take a big step back. Why do you feel so bullish against those claims from your typical college football fan that Arizona's going to maybe be even better in the post-Jed Fish era?
You know, I think part of it is that I'm familiar with Brent Brennan's work and what he had to do at San Jose State. I mean, there was a time where San Jose State's financial support was so low, the coaching staff were buying meals for the players.
Good grief.
The facilities there aren't good. And so I think people look at his record at San Jose State and say, oh, it's not very good, without really looking at the entire picture. I really like the coaching staff he put together. I like that they're all aggressive recruiters. There's multiple head coaches, and Dino Babers and Danny Gonzalez were former head coaches. Dwayne Aquina has been in college football forever. You get Noah Fafita, you get McMillan and all that. I just think that this coaching staff knows what they're doing and is going to be able to accomplish their goal.
BYU and Arizona over the last decade have played each other a couple of times. So, obviously teams are always different year in and year out, but maybe just some thoughts. The Wildcats come up to Provo to take on the Cougars. Maybe just some early thoughts on BYU and maybe that matchup in Provo coming up in a couple of months.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you go on the road, it's a tough game. And we've seen Arizona and BYU play some really good ones. Someone this morning asked me who the natural rival in the Big 12 besides ASU would be. And I kind of lean towards BYU because there is a history there. And you wonder that early in the season if both teams are kind of figuring themselves out a little bit. And when that happens, that's sometimes when upsets happen. And, I assume Arizona will be favored, but I'm not sure at that point of the season or really ever Arizona football is going to be overlooking anyone. And, Brent Brennan said it at Media Day. He said what makes this league so fun is that you can lose to any team and you can beat any team on any given Saturday. And he legitimately believes that. And this is one of those types of games.
What do people not know about the Arizona State rivalry that they should know, since you brought it up and it's the clear regional longtime rivalry for the Wildcats?
I think a lot of people assume it's just a normal rivalry game. It is not. Like it is legit dislike. Like the fan bases do not like each other. The players, a lot of them have offers from Arizona and Arizona State. And so whatever school they don't choose, they tend not to like very much, but it is heated. I remember I grew up in Southern California and I watched USC and UCLA growing up, and my first territorial cup, it was just different. ASU and Arizona is just different. And I think that people look at other rivalries and assume, those rivalries are the best, but I'd put Arizona ASU against anyone in terms of just pure teams not liking each other and competitiveness and all that.
Let's bring it back to one of our original questions to you and the possibility of expansion. And obviously asking you for your opinion, not a report. But if you were to put a percentage on the chance that the Big 12 expands, whether it's 2 or 4, not talking timeline, but just that they expand, what's the percentage you're giving it right now?
Oh, I'd say 75%. And look, it could happen in a year. It could happen in 2 years, but we are absolutely headed for another round of expansion. I have no doubt about that. That's why you're seeing the reports of 2 D1s being discussed and private equity being discussed in the Big 12 and all that. I would be shocked if there isn't some sort of realignment within the next couple of years.
Well, let's continue on that because I talked about it earlier, but Dennis Dodd's report comes out. You mentioned 2 Division Is. What will this mean for the majority of major college athletics?
In my opinion, it's not great, right? Like it's pretty much a pro model at that point. Like it would be looked at as a minor leagues and a major leagues, and how do you deal with the transfer portal? And I get the core belief behind it that some schools are just not able to compete with others, but I don't know. It doesn't feel right. Like it doesn't feel like college athletics. And I think there's still a lot of movement to be done for us to actually get in that direction. But if we're even talking about it, it feels like there's an issue here beyond just, let's make 2 D1s. I think we need to take a look at everything going on financially and all that and kind of figure out where college athletics is as a whole.
Jason Scheer of WildcatAuthority.com on BYU Sports Nation. Jason, great to talk to you. Thanks for the time today.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.